Greetings, salutations. How are you? Sayonara is goodbye, isn't it, Derek?
I think so.
I think that's right. Yeah.
It's not like aloha?
Aloha means hello and goodbye.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
No, I think sayonara is just goodbye.
Okay.
Regardless,
we'll verify that.
Trust me, there have been times in our life when we've said sayonara, and we knew that was probably it at jobs we've had. My name is Jay Query. That is Derek Schultz. It's the incredibly, creatively, and appropriately named and somewhat charitably award-winning Query and Schultz program here on ISC Sports Network. And Derek, we talked about last week. Theoretically, it's that time of year where things slow down a little bit, but no, there's actually a ton to talk about today.
There is, yeah. It's like not really one huge thing as much as it is a bunch of medium-sized things, if that makes sense. So we'll get into all of that on the show today. You know, what was kind of a bummer about last week, obviously not just the fact that we lost a legend in the passing of Slick Leonard, but that happened literally hours after we taped the show. So if you watched last week's episode, we didn't mention Slick Leonard, even though it aired technically a couple of hours after his passing, but that's because it was new news. So now, obviously, we both have some things to say about Slick and his impact and all of that, but it just feels like in this news cycle, Jake, when stuff like that happens and we're 6 days, 7 days late, you might as well be 7 months late. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, let's begin with that, actually. Why not? Slick Leonard is one, Derek, that when you talk about, this time a week ago when we were taping at least, Slick Leonard was one of the 5 perhaps, biggest living legends in the state of Indiana. Every step of his career, Derek, in terms of basketball, it is not often that somebody – give me a great basketball player off the top of your head.
Michael Jordan.
Okay, Michael Jordan. So Michael Jordan was born in Brooklyn, New York, then moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, went to University of North Carolina, and then played for the Chicago Bulls and worked as an executive with the Washington Wizards and the Charlotte Hornets, right? Slick Leonard played high school basketball in Terre Haute, where as a young player he went to the Final Four, hit game-winning free throws for the national championship in college at Indiana. Now, granted, he played for the Lakers, but
there was no team here.
Right.
When he played professional basketball,
and
there was no pro basketball.
He comes back and coaches in Indiana, right? Saves and really navigates the franchise's transition from ABA franchise, where he won 3 titles as a coach in 529 games, into NBA franchise. And I saw that I want you to share what you said about him on Facebook that some people, not going to say took exception to, but debated you on, and in my opinion, there's no debate.
Well, really, there were like 2 people that debated it. Most people, I think, understood where I was coming from. To me, he's the most important sports figure in Indianapolis history because I think, and there's no way of knowing this, but I think that if you, let's say the Pacers died in 1977, I think there's a better than decent chance that the RCA Dome or Hoosier Dome never gets built.
Correct.
And the Colts never come here. So, this thought, well, the Pacers wouldn't exist without Slick Leonard. Yeah, that's true. But maybe Indianapolis as a sports city would be Omaha, Nebraska, kind of a cutesy minor league town, or even like Louisville. And what that is today instead of the sports destination that it's become.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Look, I was around for those years. Now, 1977, I was 4.5 years old, so it's disingenuous to say that I was. But in downtown Indianapolis was Market Square Arena, City Market, and
The old spaghetti factory.
and the monument, right?
Yeah.
and then the Pacers, look, Market Square Arena was as much, Derek, in my childhood, as much a part of the ice-capades as it was the Pacers. I mean, the Brown Curtain days, and, to say that it would be disingenuous to say that Slick Leonard had them great in the NBA right away. But you can't run without walking first. And they were DOA as a franchise when the telethon, and Nancy Leonard as well, obviously a huge part of this. But when he had the vision and the belief and the ability to rally the city to say, let's keep this franchise alive until the Simons bought it, and then that changes everything. But if the Simons don't buy the Pacers, if the Pacers aren't there, they're not buying them. And then you don't have Circle Center, and you don't have, going back to that, the National Sports Festival probably, leading into the Pan American Games. I understand 100% when people say, well, what about Peyton Manning? There are hospitals named for him. I get it. The hospital did not select Peyton Manning's name to put on there because they just loved everything he'd done. It was because of financial backing. 6 of one, half dozen the other. I get it. But Peyton Manning can't play for the Indianapolis Colts if the Baltimore Colts did not have a stadium to go move to in 1984. And that stadium, to your point, Derek, 90% chance does not exist if the Pacers don't have existence in Indianapolis, and we are a minor league town.
Yeah, and I think that there was look, we interacted with listeners and sports fans in Indianapolis every day for 8.5 years, so I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on how people feel about things. And one thing I know also from not being from here is that it's really important for people that come here to embrace Indiana and Indianapolis and being a Hoosier. And Slick Leonard did that naturally because that's who he was. But
Right.
I think there was a deeper connection with Slick because everything that he did that was significant in his career happened here, and he just felt like he was one of us. You know, smoking Winstons with Pacer fans, getting wheeled out there to the smoking lounge at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. Like, you'd never see Peyton Manning doing that.
Right.
And also the difference is that Slick Leonard is totally ours here in Indiana. He's no one else's. He's not Denver's or New Orleans's or Knoxville's like Peyton is. No offense to Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller can do whatever he wants to do, and there were some instances like the house fire that I think, were more serious than we kind of made them out to be. But let's face it, Reggie Miller gave us 18 years. That's awesome. He's an icon here in this town. He left Indiana in his rearview mirror.
Right.
Indiana's not really part of
You're right.
Reggie Miller's everyday life whatsoever, and that's fine. That's his decision. But Slick Leonard was Hoosierdom.
Well, and even, Derek, to younger people, I mean, myself included, it's not like I watched him play and coach, really. But even people that are in their 20s right now. I mean, right here.
Yeah.
Right?
Generations of fans.
That is that is literally the same as holy cow. It's for Harry Carey. You know what I mean? And Harry Carey was not Chicago's originally. And Slick Leonard, Godspeed to him. God love him. The thing about him too, Derek, you met him, right?
Yeah.
This is the greatest compliment that I think you can pay to an individual in terms of their personality. There were tens of thousands of people that were friends or would say that Slick Leonard was a friend of theirs. And that's not to say necessarily that Slick Leonard would say that about them. Not maliciously, but because he might not have remembered meeting them. But in the moment when you met Slick Leonard, he would talk to you and have this interest in what you were saying where you truly felt like, man, this guy really likes me. And this guy's invested in what I have to say, and he's acting like he's known me for a long time or known of me for a long time, and he had that magic with everyone he met.
Yeah, 100%. He was just kind of like Uncle Slick, you know what I mean? How you take an elderly figure and
That's right,
you just call him Unc or Uncle. That's kind of what Slick Leonard was to this entire state.
The best. Boom, baby, to Slick Leonard. No question about it. By the way, I didn't talk to you over the weekend, right? When I was in Barber, right? For
You
IndyCar?
called me to tell me that you would be at the taping near normal time last night at like 11, but that's the only time
I
we
made it
spoke
back
over
in
the weekend.
under 7 hours. I'm very proud of myself.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I saw that you went to another presidential home.
I did.
Kind of like what we did. For those that don't know, Jake and I had really a trip that changed our relationship forever, in a good way, to San Antonio, Texas for the 2018 Final Four, and made a detour to LBJ's ranch.
That was when you took it upon yourself to iron my clothing.
Which was really cool. Well, that's not related to the LBJ ranch visit. I wanted you to look presentable on Radio Row.
You got into my bag, took my clothing out, and ironed it.
I was a little I get a little panic attacky when I know that I'm with somebody that isn't taking things as seriously as I am.
Really?
So for about a decade, I've had basically a constant panic attack. But at Radio Row, we would have interviews scheduled for as early as 8:30 in the morning. And those of you that have known Jake for a long time, Jake's not usually up before noon. So 8:30 in the morning and stuff. So I wanted to make sure you could just get up and go, because I was at Radio Row at like 6:05 a.m. every morning, just bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and ready to interview people, ready to deliver a product to our fans, our listeners.
Got to make sure you're first in
People that
line to
love
talk
the
to
show.
Bobby Cremens, right?
So I
Things
wanted
that
to
are
make
pertinent
sure
to this viewing
that I was there
and listening audience.
Well, you missed a lot of the interviews that I did because you were sleeping.
How many coaches that you interviewed at the 2018 Final Four without me there are still coaching at the same place they were
Oh, a
when you
ton of them.
interviewed them?
Greg Gard at Wisconsin, Mike Boynton at Oklahoma State. Dan Marley got fired. But it was cool to talk to Dan Marley, kind of
Right.
being a 90s kid. I hated Dan Marley.
By the way,
Hated him.
Dan Marley was replaced with Bryce
Bryce
Drew,
Drew,
right?
yep, at Grand Canyon.
Isn't that an online university?
No, well, not anymore, I don't think.
Are you sure?
I think it might have
Do
been
they
at
have
one
a
time.
campus,
Yes.
Grand Canyon?
Yeah.
Are you sure? You're
Trying
positive?
the Grand Canyon.
I mean,
Yeah.
But,
Their quad is just one of the drop-offs in there. Yep.
they've got. I mean, honestly, like, do you have to take a mule to class?
Yeah, I have no idea. I'll look it up after the show.
I think it's an
You
online
blindside
university.
me with this stuff all the time.
Do they?
I don't know
they
how to
take-
answer this question.
They go to Phoenix for homecoming. University of Phoenix. Is that their big? Is that their rival? Right.
That's an online university.
I think
University of Phoenix.
I think Grand Canyon and Phoenix are big rivals.
Yeah, no, I think Grand Canyon actually is a brick and mortar university building.
You think so?
Yes.
A building,
We'll look it up.
kind of like these basketball
what were we talking
academies
about?
that are popping up all over
we were
Indiana.
trying to talk about your
that are around for
presidential
like 2 weeks.
visit, and then you got me.
I
all
went to the
sidetracked.
home in Columbia, Tennessee. I went to the home of James K. Polk.
Where is that geographically in Tennessee?
Excellent question. I've got to think.
Southeast, because that's where you would have been
50
driving in
miles
that direction, right?
southwest of Nashville.
Okay, so just down 65 more. Or
Correct.
Okay,
You go down 65, you
it
get
kicks you west a little bit, doesn't it?
yeah,
before
but
you go back
when you're
east?
going down 65, and you go through Nashville, and you get probably to the Bargersville of Nashville. The next exit over, you exit, and then the town is 15 miles off the
Gotcha.
interstate. But James K. Polk was the 11th president of the United States. His father settled in that area when James K. Polk was a young boy. Polk went to the University of North Carolina, and when he graduated from the University of North Carolina, he moved back to Columbia, Tennessee, and lived with his parents for a few years while he began a law practice. That when he became a lawyer, he kind of became a local celebrity. He was like the Ken Nunn of.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did a lot
Ken
of.
Nunn should totally run for president.
He did
by
a lot
the
of
way.
advertising. James Polk did.
Yeah. I'd vote for him.
Yeah. So at any rate, that parlayed him into local government, which then he became the Speaker of the House. He eventually became into federal government, became the Speaker of the House, and then became president, the 11th president of the United States. And he was kind of the first underdog, obscure president. Like everyone was like, this guy from Tennessee's not actually going to win. I mean, this hayseed. And then through the primaries, well, everybody else was getting voted off the island but him. So his campaign, Derek, was he basically said, if I become president, I am going to develop an independent treasury, and then I'm going to expand us all the way to the Pacific Ocean. There was a conflict brewing with Mexico, which became Texas, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico. He actually invaded Mexico to take the Texas territory, actually invaded Texas. It was the war in Mexico. And then negotiated with England to take the Northwest Territory, which became Washington, Oregon, and he called it Manifest Destiny to complete the country all the way to the Pacific Ocean. But his biggest thing was he campaign promised from the beginning that he would only run for one term. He did all of that in 3.5 years and said, that's it, I'm done. But he got very sick because he was basically a workaholic. He was up 18 hours a day, and he died of chloria. Is that what it's called?
Cholera?
Cholera.
Yeah.
Are you sure it's cholera?
Come on, man. You never played Oregon Trail?
He died of dysentery. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dysentery.
dysentery.
Do you know any of these diseases?
What is cholera?
Wait, you can't say dysentery and cholera?
Do you know what cholera is?
Yes. Sorry, I was vomiting the other day.
Do you know what
You
cholera
mean vomit?
is?
Yeah, cholera is when you're on the wagon and your rations are down to bare bones, and you go out to hunt and you can't find any buffalo, and you forded the river and you lost like 3 axles and all of that, then you eventually succumb to cholera. Yes.
Of dysentery.
Dysentery. Yes.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Regardless, that's what he died of.
Cholera.
He was like 50, I think. Well, I can't remember. I just saw it, the word, and I couldn't remember.
yeah.
But
We'll get that in post for you.
But he, anyway, the home is the home that he lived in very briefly with his parents and his wife. He married when he was 24 and she was 20, I think. And so everything that they have that belonged to James Polk is in this home. It's basically his museum. They had the Bible that he swore in on, which I thought was cool.
Cool.
The thing about him was during the time that he was president, even though he outwardly said that he was against slavery, and this was heading into the era that would become the Civil War, he actually privately had someone buying and trading slaves for him while he was president. And that has rightly really hurt his legacy as a president, even though the policies that he set in place in the White House, are considered by many to be a top 5, top 10 president.
1840s?
1840s is correct.
Okay, yeah. It seems like he's almost like the George H.W. Bush of that era, where a bunch of stuff happened, even though he was only a one-term president.
Right.
A whole bunch of crap happened during
Right.
those 4 years. And that's what happened to Bush Sr., it felt like, with the end of the Cold War and everything else that was happening around that
Were
time.
you jealous of my Polk trip?
No, I mean, I'm fascinated by U.S. presidents. I've really got this weird fascination with catastrophic events and tragedies. Maybe James Polk will be my next. I've been on an audiobooks kick lately, but it's gone down a very dark path where the last 3 audiobooks that I've read have been on the USS Indianapolis, Harvey Milk, and Chernobyl.
Did you not know going into them how those were going to
No,
go?
I did, but I really am. I'm fascinated by it. I didn't know much of anything about the USS Indianapolis outside of it sunk like a week before the war ended and the shark attacks, but I had no idea of the horrors that those men
know how many
faced and the
survived?
court martial.
Do you know how many survived?
Yeah, it ended up being 317, even though
317.
the area code is just a coincidence.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, and then we'll get into other things to get to today, Derek, which includes, of course, talking about the possibility, and you and I talked about this like 5 years ago, of could something that's taking place in soccer overseas be foreshadowing from what might take place eventually in college football here in the United States. We'll get to that. We also have, of course, our American Dairy Association of Indiana Winners Drink Milk Winner of the Week to get to. We have other features to get to as well, right?
Yes, everything that you've come used to here on this show. And we've got a lot of other stuff to talk about, like the Pacers.
Can I share with you my medical ailment, and you tell me
really
if you
wanna
think
talk
it's cholera?
Cholera, yes.
Cholera?
Cholera and dysentery.
Chlorea? Dysentery. Dysentery.
Dysentery, yeah.
Are you sure it's not dysentery?
No, Blink-182 had a song on Enema This Day called Dysentery Gary.
So do you want me to share with you next what happened to me medically speaking that I think you'll be thrilled with?
Well, what area of your physical are you affected by? Because if it's like old man, like if you need like a colonoscopy, I don't really want to hear it.
Oh, I've had a couple of those.
Okay,
I've got my
I'm not
master's in
interested in
that.
getting
Have you
into
had one
those
yet?
details. No.
You had a doctor that liked to
I don't
scope
want to
the
talk
area.
about that ever again. I don't want to talk about Dr. Snyder ever again.
You had
just don't even. There's no reason to bring this up, Jay.
You had 3 finger tests in 18 months.
There's no reason to bring
And
this
you
up.
weren't even 35 yet.
I thought it was just an extremely thorough physical. That's, I trusted him and I misplaced that trust.
We're going to need to see you again in 90 days. You came walking in. You're like, man, it's really weird.
I was barely walking.
I know. You look like Nigel from Top Secret.
I don't
you
wanna
came walking
relive
in the
that.
studio. I'm like, what happened to you? I had a physical. Okay.
Super leagues and other sports-related things.
Okay.
When we come back
And I'll show
on the
you
show.
my non-nether region ailment from over the weekend.
It's Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
You can't get enough of them.
You can't get enough of us. Good one, J-Man.
This is the worst scandal. This might
This
even
is
be...
worse than steroid. Not so fast.
Are you going to watch the XFL?
I'll probably watch a little bit of it.
You want to go through and pick some games?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I really don't.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Oh my God! We are ripping fast today. And how hard can it be, right? These are now selling for about $3,500. So we're back to our old ways of pulling rocks.
Act like idiots on camera, open cards, and talk about the hobby.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz. One thing you might have figured out over the course of listening to or viewing this program, and we appreciate if you're doing both, either, whatever it might be, whichever way you are ingesting it, is that we know a little bit more about history than we do medicine. That's one thing that we know. Derek is a medical expert, at least in terms of apparently the pronunciation.
Indeed, yes.
But not necessarily a medical expert in being aware of what things he may or may not need during a routine physical. But Derek, your wife, is a medical expert, and that's because of the fact that she was able to complete her certifications and everything she needed from WGU, right? WGU, Indiana.
That's right. Yep. And the best part about it is that she did it on her own time. She's kind of a night owl, no pun intended, because Sage is an owl. We'll get that in post. But she, late at night, was able to study and take a lot of her exams.
That's why the owl
online.
is the mascot, Derek.
It's perfect.
Right.
It's perfect for her and her weird schedule because she's I'm like a 7-hour sleeper, 11:30, 6:30, sort of a routine guy.
Beautiful.
She's not. So WGU Indiana was absolutely perfect for her.
And again, ambition never rests, never sleeps. If you are somebody who has to make your own schedule, whether you're entering the arena of getting a secondary education degree, maybe finishing your degree, or just making a career change, WGU.edu, Indiana's largest online accredited university. Before we get to talking about super conferences, Derek, let me tell you my medical ailment, and then you give me your diagnosis, because you're clearly a medical expert.
I am certainly qualified to do that.
I am now on, and I'm happy to be alive. I take a number of different medicines each day. One of them is a blood thinner.
Yeah, Jake has one of those plastic Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
How'd you know?
Friday, Saturday.
I do.
Pill things.
I do.
Because you're old.
I have two of them, one for the road, one for at home. Well, let me tell you, 6 medications a day.
Man.
You can laugh if you want.
Yeah.
Your time's coming.
Nah.
I'll
never be there.
Okay.
Physical problem in my life.
You got 3 rectal exams in a calendar year.
And it's all clean. No polyps.
I should
all
hope
clean.
I should hope so. Yeah, you need to get that done.
He was in there for a while to make sure, which
yeah,
I
very
didn't
thorough,
realize.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so at any rate, the blood thinner I'm on, not to get, because I have a stent that's put in, they have to put a blood thinner in because if the blood is too thick, it can get a hold of the stent and move it down the canal, which you don't want. So I'm on blood thinners for at least a year, maybe 2. Not a huge issue, but initially I bruised pretty easily. So I was like the guy that you see with the bruises all of it. That kind of went away, which is cool. But if I nick myself, literally if I get a hangnail, something like that.
Bleeds and bleeds and bleeds
Oh,
and bleeds.
it's just
yeah.
a nightmare
I've
trying to
heard
get it
that,
to stop. So I'm in Birmingham, Alabama over the weekend for the IndyCar event at Barbara Motorsports Park. And
Which
on
we'll talk about later on the
Saturday
show.
evening, I'm like getting ready for bed. I'm like, I need to shave. So I shave. I got like a tiny nick. You ever get just like a tiny, can you see it? The nick?
Yeah,
there?
I can, yeah.
Okay.
No, I never nick myself ever. Perfect shaver.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Tiny nick. So I'm like, oh, man. So I was laying there watching TV, and I had a washcloth and just would occasionally dab it to try to accelerate the clotting. Okay? And I got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I mean, you'd think it takes care of itself. So I'm sitting there doing it, and nothing. But I'm like, a tiny, tiny speck, whatever. Finally, go to bed. I wake up at 5 a.m.
Pillowcase is soaked.
And I thought, do I have like maple syrup on me? Like, why is my face like sticky?
Oh.
So I go into the bathroom and I turn on the light.
Oh, you're not going to show me a picture?
No,
right?
of course not.
Okay, yeah, I really don't want to see it.
So I turn on the light, and then I go back in and I turn the light on in the room, and there's blood on the pillow and the bed sheets.
Oh.
And there's blood smeared everywhere. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to think that like something graphic and violent happened inside this room.
Yeah.
So then I thought, well, do I need to take a picture of myself to prove that, even though I guess they would be able to tell it's my own blood by doing a DNA test or whatever.
Yeah.
So at any rate, I just wanted to share that with you. What do you think?
Oh, God.
What? What?
Why does it look like grape jelly?
Well, it's dried blood.
I just thought it was going to be like red blood. It's like purple, like gelled up. It's disgusting. Get that away from me. I don't want to look at that.
Why
it's
not?
disgusting.
What's wrong with it?
Stop. I don't want to see
Should I not
that.
show the viewers?
Give them a warning.
Oh, wait, you're not going to be able to see it, probably.
It's
right?
horrible. And well, you're on your don't scroll through your photos too much there, pal.
Can you not see?
Don't
There you
do
go.
that.
There I am. You probably can't see.
You look like that Andrew WK album cover.
I look very French, don't I? Like, ooh,
no,
yeah,
I don't want to see that, man.
It was.
So did you tell housekeeping or what'd you do?
I did. I had to pull the. I mean, it was 2 pillowcases plus the bed sheet, and it went through to the mattress covering.
Oh God! So you like ruined this hotel room.
Correct. I took it all
Because you
off.
can't shave.
I took it all off and went down to the front
What's wrong
desk
with
and
you?
said, "Let me show you a picture to
God.
show you that this was me," and explained everything. And they're like, "Yeah, okay, man."
Here are my bloody linens. Gross.
Look.
So what do you want my medical advice for?
What do you
Like,
think?
are you dying?
Did I have cholera?
No, I think you're fine. It's
it
gross. Please don't show that to me. Honestly, I get squeamish about stuff like that. I don't like looking at blood or anything cuts or stitches, like post-surgical stitches. I can't look
It does just
at.
kind of look like I had too much jam or jelly on me, right? Yeah. Okay.
Besides medical opinions, here's something else that we're not experts in, but we're going to talk about anyway. You saw this. Maybe you didn't because you were in Birmingham basically all day. We're taping this right now on Monday, and this news broke yesterday. But some of the most popular and prominent European football clubs are breaking away to join their own league.
Well, for people who are listening that are like me, that are not, die hard. I know that some people follow European soccer very heavily, right? So you have basically 2 major leagues. You have the English Premier League, and then what's the other league?
You have the Spanish league, La Liga, but then you have Bundesliga, the German league. You have more than just one, 2 big leagues. There are a lot of big leagues.
So
in Europe.
basically, each country has its own top league,
Pretty much.
and then they
feed into the Champions League,
right.
and then you declare a champion, and they have sanctioning bodies like UEFA for that, and then FIFA for the World Cup, and it's honestly it's a little bit confusing, and I'm not an expert on it. Rakestraw's blood vessels might be popping in his temples right now, trying to listen to us talk about soccer because he knows far more about this than we do in the other room. But it's kind of like college basketball, where you're in the Big Ten and you play for the Big Ten championship, and then you qualify for the NCAA tournament.
Right.
And that's sort of what happens here.
So those teams, if I had to guess, Derek, the top teams that are discussing this, the teams that I hear the most about as a non-soccer fan, Real Madrid.
Yes.
Barcelona.
Yes.
Manchester United.
Yes. And Man City.
Liverpool.
Yep.
Tottenham.
Yeah. I have a lot of Tottenham fans on my Twitter feed, and they're apparently not even that good.
Everton.
No. Everton's a no. Ricks is giving me that thumbs up.
FC Milan.
AC Milan.
Isn't there an FC Football Club Milan?
I think there is. I think there's both of those.
AC Milan is where Anthony Calhoun.
Or is it AC Milan?
Wardrobe.
Yeah. I think that's right. Okay. Yes.
But at any rate, so they're discussing just becoming their own league because they're saying it's kind of like Spicoli.
Starting in 2023.
Basically, they're saying like, look, these other clubs are bogus. So like, if they're just going to be bogus, we should like just start our own country and we can be bogus too.
He's an Italian soccer player?
No. Spicoli?
Who is that?
Aloha, Mr. Hand. That's Jeff Spicoli's interpretation of how the United States formed. Basically, Jefferson and the other guys are saying, if we don't get some cool rules ourselves, pronto, we'll just be bogus too.
Why are you talking like that?
Very close, Jeff.
My name is Derek. I don't know what any of this is.
Mr. Hand.
You bring up these.
You have a guy like me, a guy you make example of every year.
Okay,
in
is
class.
this a movie reference to something?
You'll find out next year. As soon as I cruise history, I'm not coming near your side of the building. Cruise history? as soon as it passed your class.
Is this Revenge of the Nerds
If
again?
you pass.
Is that what that is?
Whoa, you mean you're going to flunk
All
me?
right, okay. Are you going to cite the whole movie?
Don't worry, Spicoli. You'll probably squeak by. Ah,
But this Super League stuff,
That's from Fast Times at Ridgemont
It's
High.
going to be, billions and billions of dollars that now can go into their own pockets. But obviously, FIFA and UEFA are really PO'd about this. It seems that this is overwhelmingly, the response has been overwhelmingly negative for fans and for media. Like I said, Jake, it's really kind of hard for us to discuss because we just don't follow it on an everyday basis. But this is a really big deal. And what it sparked in my mind, and it probably did yours as well, is that for a long time, we felt like this was a potential for major college football. Because you've got Alabama and Texas and Ohio State, and they're thinking to themselves, well, why in the world should I worry about what, Indiana is doing? Or, Indiana football. I guess Indiana as an athletic department is higher than that. But
if college football, so all kidding aside and everything else, in the NCAA with college football and what you've seen have been a pretty, college football seems to have a much greater divide of the haves and the have-nots than even college basketball, which is interesting because in college basketball you only need 5 guys to be, 3 guys on a team to be dominant. You would think that college basketball, you still have your blue bloods, don't get me wrong, but Baylor, Gonzaga, you have teams that can come through and make some noise for you. But we'll begin with college football. If college football was to do this, give me the 12 programs that have enough independent marketing cachet to stand on their own 2 legs.
Alabama, Ohio State, Texas, Michigan. You could probably take most of the SEC teams, honestly. LSU, Florida. I guess, would you still put Florida State there?
I would.
Okay.
Penn State?
Yeah.
Did you say
Fan base,
Michigan?
Notre Dame.
Did you say
I said
Michigan?
Michigan. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there are any West Coast schools. USC maybe of the Pac-12 schools.
Well, USC for sure. Probably UCLA. Just because
of their athletic department in general. Kind of like Texas is sort of like that too.
Quite frankly, Boise State.
See,
I think of them as a regional power, though. Like that mountainous region, they're pretty big.
I don't think it can't just be.
They have the blue, and for a while there, they were pretty hot, and kids loved them and bought their gear.
Yeah, it has to be national relevance though too, and Boise just doesn't do it.
Did you say Clemson?
No, but at this point, you'd probably include them. 10 years ago, you wouldn't have included them.
Which leads to another question, Derek. Let's say that the NCAA, and I do think and have thought for a while that this was entirely possible, that the NCAA, which while it's losing its grip because of all the money involved on policing the power programs, if the NCAA went to Alabama or Clemson or Notre Dame and said, you know what, fine. You want to do this, fine. But then you're also on your own for college basketball. Now, which schools of the dominant college football programs, this is probably a better question, which schools of the dominant college football programs we just mentioned, if it meant also doing their own basketball tournament and losing out on quote-unquote March Madness, which ones would say, I don't know, because the real March Madness tournament and one shining moment is too big to our school as well to back away from that? Versus which schools are a big enough college basketball program that they could say, okay, we'll do our own deal. For example, Ohio State is a good enough college basketball program to be able to withstand, to be able to do their own basketball tournament. But while Ohio State fans are passionate about their basketball team, they're not so tied into March Madness that they have to be in the NCAA tournament. So they would be a good one to be able to stand on their own. Probably true of Michigan as well, and Notre Dame.
I think this would be more difficult for college football than, say, these European clubs, because if I'm Liverpool, I'm only worried about Liverpool. If I'm the athletic director at Michigan and I know that I could PO the NCAA to the point that they say, hey, if you do this, you're out, then I lose every other sport. Well, what do I tell all of the athletes? What do I tell, my men's soccer team and my women's volleyball team and my men's basketball team? Not just the non-revenue sports, but the other ones. Hey, sorry, football's too much money, so we're going to break off and do this. Like, that's where I kind of see it being a hurdle that's going to be difficult for them to cross someday. They would need to know that their other sports could be sanctioned.
Well, that's it.
Elsewhere.
But UCLA, for example.
It's hard to do that without an organizing body, though.
I mean, UCLA is big enough as a brand in all sports, Derek, to stand on its own two legs. But UCLA probably would be one that would say, we really want to be in the NCAA men's basketball tournament.
You can't compete in any other thing. Yes, UCLA could stand on its own, and their women could play exhibitions all season long, but what are you playing for? You can't win a conference. You can't win a national championship because you're just independent. You're just out there unsanctioned on your own.
Do you think it will become eventually a stare down between the NCAA and some of these big schools of, fine, go do your own thing, and we'll see how it works out for you?
Yeah, I do think that we're going to get to the point where these programs go over the NCAA because they're so powerful and there's so much money involved that there will have to be some other form of organization, whether it be a sanctioning body or just the university presidents or athletic directors. Like, there's going to have to be something else after that to handle all of the minutia. But I do think we will eventually get there because just in this Super League, Jake, with these European teams, the amount of money we're talking about, it's $3.5 billion per team that they're going to get just from this, not counting kind of future earnings of not having to split the kitty.
Yeah, if you are Manchester United, I mean, some of these teams, Derek, are going to have to say to themselves, like, and I have no idea if there's revenue sharing or whatever else, but and does that eventually spawn off to the NFL? Do the Dallas Cowboys eventually say, look, the revenue sharing is great, but why are we keeping Jacksonville afloat?
Yeah, I think maybe, but you're only talking 1 out of 32 there, whereas with these European clubs, when you talk about the Champions League, Greg can give me a thumbs up or thumbs down here. There's something like 230 teams that are eligible for that, and I think they all kind of feed into that get their little piece of the pie. Oh, even more than that, 300-something teams. However many it is.
People can't see where you're looking.
Well, I want to make sure that I have all my facts accurate here.
You're just looking at the magic man off the side there.
It's difficult for me, Jake, because, kind of unlike you, I have incredible knowledge in basically everything that we talk about on this show. I'm pretty much an expert in every field that we discuss.
Like James Polk?
This is a little bit, okay, great. So you had one weekend where you took a road trip somewhere, and you know a little bit more about that figure than me.
Tennessee geography?
That's one of the few things that you have, that and serial killers, that you have
blood clotting,
a big knowledge over, and old man health issues.
Well, except for colonoscopies. You seem
I'm an expert. I can tell you everything that you need to know, especially the do's and don'ts, but especially the don'ts is what I am well aware of.
Frequency?
Yes.
What else do we have to get to here?
We have some features to get to.
Okay.
So our Winners Drink Milk, winner of the week, brought to you by our friends at American Dairy Association of Indiana. We've got Bite or Bull Bleep from our friends at the shop. Love that play. Love HVAC. And Pacers, some other basketball stuff. Colts possibly trading down. Plenty more to get to here on this edition of Query and Schultz. Stick around on ISC Sports Network.
Indiana Dairy Farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching, barn needs cleaning, tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do, from Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows. Wherever you find your favorite app, And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
Welcome back. It's Query and Schultz here on ISC Sports Network. My name is Derek Schultz. Jake Query is here as well because the show is called Query and Schultz and not Schultz and Schultz. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends
What a
at
disaster that
Chateau Kitchens. Actually, it's been no Query Fridays. We're really, really popular. Like, we had spikes. I can finally talk about ratings now that we're not employed
That's
there
right.
anymore. We had spikes in
I
ratings.
guess we can talk about ratings, can't we? Can you imagine, Derek, if we decided that we wanted to go carte blanche in telling people the actual ratings of radio stations and radio shows in this market, because we're no longer FCC prohibited from doing exactly that. Can you imagine if we actually sat and just said, here they are? I can tell you there are some people that would be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, we don't need people knowing that what we've been telling you all along about how dominant we are
the thing
is
is,
not accurate.
ratings are kind of like statistics. You have all these age groups and genders
Correct.
and all of that where you can make them say whatever you want. Like, we could say, hey, we're number one. We don't have to tell anybody that we're number one, men 55 to 64.
Right.
You know what I mean? Who cares
I
if
will
you're number one
simply
there?
say this. I'm not going to get anybody in trouble. I don't need anybody like getting nervous that's sitting back there while I'm talking. I will simply say this. If you see media personalities sending out via social media or otherwise a regular post about the dominance of their ratings or the fact that they're number one or they want to thank everybody for making them the top listened to show, in 99.9% of the cases, that is total BS. Because they know no one is actually going to be able to publish the numbers to prove them wrong.
It's not public info.
So there you go.
So
don't believe the hype.
But if we're talking about ratings when it comes to home remodeling and especially kitchens,
That we can share.
number one for sure is my friends at Chateau Kitchens. You've been to my house to see. Have you seen my kitchen since
have.
it got renovated?
I
Yeah,
have.
it's great. I don't know if you saw the original one. It had rose floral sponge prints all over it.
Sure.
10 layers of linoleum floors. And for some reason, it had a ceiling fan that was like 5'5", so I'd actually hit my head on it in the middle of the kitchen. I have no idea why. So we bought this house from a little old lady who lived there for like 30 years, and we always knew, hey, we've got to like gut the kitchen. But we've got a wall here and a butler door. Like, what are we going to do? And so we called Chateau Kitchen, and Steven, who is the owner there, and Victoria, who was our designer, and Ryan, who was the project manager. They put together a blueprint of a plan for us to renovate our kitchen, and it's amazing. I mean, we maximize the space.
Now, did you
We
get a
moved
lot
the
of say
refrigerator
in-
over?
Did they work?
Oh,
with
for
you?
sure. I
Yeah.
mean, we gave them kind of the ideas for what we wanted, and then, Victoria, their designer, put her own touches on it and didn't get away from what we wanted, and actually, if anything, made it look even better, and the finished product was amazing. They did wonderful work. Check them out online, chateaukitchens.com, 301 East Main Street up in Carmel, the premier home remodeling, kitchen remodeling business in Indianapolis.
All right, so there you go. And your kitchen does look good, I will say that. And one of the things I know that, like, when you make a big breakfast in the morning time, which I know you do because you get up and you make your bacon and all that stuff.
Well, it's for my wife who works overnight shifts saving lives at Methodist Hospital, but yes.
What time does she get up if she works overnight shifts?
Well, she comes back from work, and she's just worked for like 14 hours, and sometimes she doesn't eat anything because she's working the entire time.
For example,
so I make her a big spread.
If she wanted some of the protein that comes with eggs but didn't have time to necessarily sit there and wait for you to make them, you know what she could do?
Drink chocolate milk?
Yeah.
Well, we have milk with our breakfast.
Milk, yeah.
Period. Yeah, milk.
Do you have the milk facts?
No, I don't have those with me. There's my milk. There it is. It comes from cows.
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
I know that.
The American Dairy Association of Indiana, their milk does come
10
from
cups
cows.
of raw spinach.
That's right.
As much protein, right? As much potassium as 2 hard-boiled eggs, and as much something else as something. What's the last one? Why do I always mess up the last one? Raw spinach, hard-boiled eggs, and there's something else.
Banana?
Oh, as much potassium as a banana. And then as much something as 2 hard-boiled eggs. You have one responsibility,
Protein?
Jake, and that is to keep... No, that's the spinach. And that is to keep the milk
the
facts.
spinach is vitamins.
All right, well, you've already ruined it. Just all vitamins? Or a specific vitamin?
A.
Okay. Let's just junk this segment. We'll just throw this out in post. We'll come back. I can talk about Chateau again.
You spend
we'll come
more.
back and
You
do the
spend
milk
more
facts.
time in the post than Alonzo Mourning.
I'm just saying. Like we need to do a lot of editing. It's actually a big burden on Jordan, who's got a ton of other things to do besides wasting his time with this show. Winners Drink Milk winner of the week. You would think that I would go with Alex Palou, right? First IndyCar race of the year. He's your winner. Looks like a young rising star. I'm actually going to give it to another guy who I think is a rising star. He doesn't turn 22 until next month. I've really always enjoyed our individual interactions with him, but he was on pole at Barber and turned in a fourth-place finish. And I even realized this, Jake. He was P4 last year in the championship. I didn't even know that Pato O'Ward had that. I
Really
knew
good
that he was
driver.
running up front and had a bunch of runner-ups. I had no idea he had that consistent of a season last year.
Good crowd at the Honda Indy Grand Prix of Alabama, and Pato O'Ward put on a show for the fans, no question. I thought you were going to say Renus VK there for a second, who was also impressive. But it is true that O'Ward probably for the second time in going back to last year, I can't remember which race it was, where he had the race won. It was Gateway, and then truthfully, the strategy in the pits just kind of hurt him and set him back and might have cost him the win. But O'Ward was dominant.
It's good milk.
He's a great, great driver. I will give it to Alex Palou. Look, the Spaniard a year ago was relatively unknown coming into the NTT IndyCar Series when Dale Coyne brought him over and he drove for Coyne, and just lady luck was never on his side. He showed a lot of promise. He had a lot of good, qualifying and practice sessions, and then race weekends just never went his way. And I remember him saying at the end of the year at Mid-Ohio, like, look, I need a good result because I have no money. I'm not bringing sponsorship money. I've got to go off my reputation and just hope to try to get a ride next year. I mean, he really didn't know if he was even going to be driving in the series this year. He lands with Chip Ganassi in that 10 car, which has always been a good ride. But yet, even with it being a good ride, it's eluded results for some of the drivers since Dario Franchitti stepped out of that car that have been in it. He gets in it, and he did not make a mistake at all over the weekend. So Alex Palou, who's a really nice guy, if people and a great personality, if people follow along with him, I think they'll become fans of him.
When I started following this series 12-ish years ago, basically there were three teams that had a chance to win every week. The old Andretti Green Racing team, AGR, Penske, and Ganassi. And anyone outside of that was a huge shock that they would win. This has got to be the deepest that it's ever been. I mean, I feel like we say that every year, but especially with the young talent.
Let me ask you this. Romain Grosjean, by the way, who's a rookie, the Formula One driver. I mean, he's got 10 podiums in F1. He was impressive over the course of the weekend.
What'd you think of Jimmy, by the way?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Let me ask you this, Derek. Jimmy Johnson he was definitely off the pace. He's handled it the right way. I mean, he knew he was going to be off the pace. He said that he wanted to simply be on the lead lap. I think he finished like 3 laps down. If Jimmy Johnson's results continue to be like this, he's 45 years old. I guess the thing to me that feels a little money grab about it, I hate to say that, Jimmy Johnson's 45 years old. So it's not like he's coming over and you say, well, this year's a learning year, and then in 2 years, man, he's going to be really good. He's 45. He's in the twilight of his career anyway. By the time he gets it figured out, it's already probably time to hang it up. I mean, whatever. Does IndyCar run a risk if they over-promote Jimmy Johnson? And I understand it. You want Jimmy Johnson as a gateway to get motorsports fans that were NASCAR fans that are curious to see how he's doing and to entice them in to then see the series and go, wow, this is pretty cool. This Palou guy, this VK guy, this Pato O'Ward, Newgarden, whatever it might be. But do you run the risk of over-promoting a guy that is running dead last with an anchor tied to him and having people say, well, what does it say about their series that all they can tell me about is this guy that's running last? Why do I have to talk about anybody else?
No, because
it's kind of a catch-22, is it not?
They need the exposure regardless of how it comes. So even if Jimmy Johnson is the only person that people can name as an IndyCar driver, at least they can name an IndyCar driver. Like, that's kind of how I'd approach it if I was IndyCar. I mean, and I love IndyCar, Jake, you know that. It's the nichest of niche. I mean, calling it niche is an insult to niches, honestly. I mean, we're talking about a really small audience that knows what's going on with this. And I love the potential of it to grow, and I think it's a great product. but that's kind of where it is. So I'm not even really sweating that. I thought that him coming aboard as a one-off would be worse than him, going out there and challenging himself. I actually kind of like the fact that he wants to get in the cockpit and give it a whirl.
Do you know what his net worth is?
$25 million.
Higher.
$40 million.
This is off of networth.com. So I mean, who knows, right?
40.
But higher.
Really? 60.
Higher.
100?
Higher.
He's worth more than $100 million, Jimmy Johnson?
I mean, again, I'm not privy.
I wouldn't think that any NASCAR driver is worth that much.
$160 million.
Wow. Does he have is he a franchisee of like Chick-fil-A's or something?
Maybe. By the way, speaking of that, what
like Shaq?
I think we talked about this, but when did Chick-fil-A become? Chick-fil-A's been around forever. Did we talk? I know we talked about this once before, but it still boggles my mind now that anytime you go to Chick-fil-A, there's there are 300 cars in line.
I didn't grow up with it. And when I came out here, everybody's like, "Oh my God, you've got to try Chick-fil-A." And Chick-fil-A is fine, and the service is great. But I've never understood what the BFD was about Chick-fil-A food. Like, I'm never like, "Oh my God, I've got to have Chick-fil-A."
Pretty good.
It's pretty good, but it's not like.
But I mean,
I'm going to sit in line for an hour to get it.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I like Popeyes better.
Really?
Well, the problem is that they're usually like screaming at each other at Popeyes. The service is goes kind of the other way. If they're not assaulting each other back there, and you actually get what you ordered, then it's a win. And I don't go to drive-thrus a lot, but of the 3 worst drive-thru experiences I've ever had, all 3 were at Popeyes.
Okay.
I got cursed at. I was just
for what?
I wanted Cajun fries. They gave me the wrong ones.
Well, why did you get cursed at?
I don't know. I was very politely said.
Did you drive back around?
I did. Yeah.
It's a golden rule, Derek. If they send you a wrong thing at the drive-thru, that's just what you know. What we used to do in high school.
Oh God. Any story that starts with this is bad.
You know how they have 2 windows, and the second window they just hand you the food.
Yeah. You just drive to the second window.
We'd pull around and we'd just cut in front of whoever was paying, and then it was like lottery.
Yeah.
And you drive to the second window. Thank you.
We never did stuff like that.
I was a kid.
Yeah.
We did it a few times.
Sometimes we'd go to McDonald's and
we'd get mad. We'd get mad. Like, that guy back there ordered a fillet of fish. What the heck? We'd get angry.
We'd get all of our trash together, and we'd order extra ketchup packets and put that all in the bag, and we call it the throw bag. And then we would go to somebody's house that we didn't like, usually Mark's ex-girlfriend Natasha's house, where her parents lived was one. And we would take the throw bag and then toss it in the yard, but we would rip it open. So basically it would just be like double quarter pounders, wrappers, and ketchup packets and all of that just all over the yard. And I don't know if she ever found out that it was us.
And you're mad at me for...
Well, we were in high school, Jake. We were just high school kids. We didn't know what we were doing.
Okay. Well, I'm sure the American Dairy Association is
was
thrilled to know of your
One
behavior.
time I put a cigarette butt in there and it was still lit. So it was like on fire. So we're throwing it out of the window.
So you were a
while
delinquent
it was on
who
fire.
also smoked?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't smoke, kids.
Anything? Well, okay.
Don't smoke.
Yeah. Putting ketchup packet trash bombs
Really bad
in
for
Natasha's front yard is just fine. Where we draw the line is at the smoking.
I'm sorry, Natasha.
Okay.
I apologize.
Do you know Natasha now?
No, not at all. No.
Never seen her?
No. I haven't been back home in 5 years, so
You
it's
haven't
been a minute.
Facebook stalked her at all?
She and I were never, because she and Mark were on the outs, so she and I were never close.
All right, what do we have to get to next?
We have more features to get to. Also, I guess we are obligated to talk about the crappy Pacers, so we'll talk about them being crappy. Another loss, this time to Nate McMillan. Did they make a mistake with Nate? I wanted to address that because people seem to want to talk about that. So
all right.
We'll come back with
We'll
that
do it next.
It's Query and Schultz on ISC.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
You can't get enough of them.
You can't get enough of us. Good one, J-Man.
This is the worst scandal. This might
This
even
is
be
worse than steroid. Not so fast.
Are you going to watch the XFL?
I'll probably watch a little bit of it.
You want to go through and pick some games?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I really don't.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Oh my God!
We are ripping fast today.
And how hard can it be, right?
These are now selling for about $3,500. So we're back to our old ways of pulling rocks.
Act like idiots on camera, open cards, and talk about the hobby.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz as we get set for Love That Play, brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air Conditioning. And again, folks, I tell you this and have been telling you this for a long time. I actually met both Chris and John Love in elementary school, third grade to be exact, and have known them ever since, including their father, Phil Love, who his father worked for his father. That's correct. We're talking multi-generations of Love Heating and Air Conditioning, been around since 1920. And most family businesses don't last that long, but I've seen it up close and personal when you're talking about a family business where the key, and I think Love knows it, the key to success and lasting that long is great product, knowledge of that product, but mostly simply being fair priced and fair in terms of the way that you deal with your customers, your customer service, and 24-hour on-call maintenance. That's all that you get from Love Heating and more, but that's the baseline principle of it and why they've lasted so long. Love-HVAC.com is their website. Telephone number is 353-2141. That's 317-353-2141. Love-HVAC.com, at Love Heat Indy on Twitter. Derek, our favorite, as we do each and every week, play of the week. This guy actually probably can double as our American Dairy Association Winners Drink Milk winner of the week, but a very cool play because you just don't see it often in baseball, and it's led to a furious debate over the two of us, between the two of us, of how you would handle it if you were there as a fan rooting for the other team. But the Chicago White Sox had a pretty cool moment over the past week.
Yeah, Carlos Rodon with a no-hitter. Really, it could have easily been a perfect game. It was a perfecto until the 25th out, or 26th out, I should say. So with one out in the ninth, he hit a batter and basically grazed him in the foot, and that took the perfecto out, but still a no-hitter, which is a great accomplishment. I think we're going to be seeing more of these, though, Jake, because the gap between pitchers and hitters has gotten extremely wide in baseball. And
why is that?
A lot of people are complaining about strikeouts. I mean, I think it's a myriad of reasons, but it's just pitchers, the stuff that guys have and the velocity and the movement, it's just insane. It's just really – it's already difficult to hit in baseball, even when you take all of that stuff out. But I think you've gotten to a point where the pitchers are just much, much better than the hitters right now, and it's hurt offense.
I love seeing no-hitters. I've never seen one in person, and you and I have debated this furiously over the years.
I saw Jim Abbott's in person in '93 at Yankee Stadium.
Did you really?
Yeah, I've talked about that.
I know, but I mean, how old were you?
It was great. He was a one-armed man. 10. And the Yankees stunk back then. Actually, '93 they were okay.
In what inning? I realize it would be impossible to immediately recall this, but if based on your memory, like in what inning did chatter start going around the stadium of like, wait a minute, he's got a no-hitter going?
6th or 7th probably. But in those days, I still sat and filled out a scorecard. So I was well aware of the fact that he had not given up a hit to that point. But it's not really until the 6th or 7th when you're like, hey, wait a minute. This could happen.
Right.
And that was a good Indians lineup. That was like Carlos Barrega and Albert Bell and guys like that.
If you went to – give me a team off the top of your head.
The Yankees.
Aside from the Yankees. You're a Yankees fan, right?
Yeah, the Mets.
An obscure team.
God,
a team.
Dude, what do you want me to do?
Well,
here?
I mean,
I named two teams for
a
you.
team that is
Want me to name all of them?
completely harmless to the New York Yankees.
The Orioles.
Okay. Again, a rival.
What?
Same division.
Okay, yeah. I mean, the Orioles are a rival to the Yankees like IU football is a rival to Ohio State, I guess.
An interleague game between
Same division.
There's an interleague game between the Yankees and the Colorado Rockies.
Okay.
And you go to Yankee Stadium. And a pitcher for the Colorado Rockies has a no-hitter through 6.
Okay.
And people are like, hey, did you hear this guy for Colorado, he's got a no-hitter going. At what point in that game, this is a mid-April game.
Okay.
Yankees are already 6 games out of first.
In mid-April? Who cares? You mean like mid-July maybe or mid-August? Then it would be a big deal.
At what point in the game are you rooting for the guy to get the no-hitter?
Never. I'm never rooting for it. I'm there to see the Yankees win. So I want to see them break up the no-hitter and win, hopefully. String something together.
Okay. The Yankees are down 11-0. It's the 9th inning, bottom of the 9th, in Yankee Stadium with 2 outs.
Okay.
They're down 11-0 to the Colorado Rockies in late July, and they are 16 games out of first place. Yankee batter comes up and bunts and beats out the throw and is safe at first and breaks up the no-hitter.
Yeah.
What do you in the stands do?
I mean, honestly, if it's 11-0 with 2 outs in the 9th inning and the Yankees are down, we're probably already across the street at stands. But if I was still
It's a
in the
no-hitter.
stands, yeah, no, I probably would have already left at 11-0.
It's a no-hitter. You have a chance to see a no-hitter.
Well, the Yankees have very minimal chance to win that game, so I'm probably having beers across the street.
So you leave knowing the no-hitter is still in play?
In the 6th inning, yeah, I'd probably leave at that point, not thinking about the no-hitter.
Okay.
Or 7th inning.
So allow me, if I may.
Why? You can outlay any
hold on.
scenario for me, but this is the answer is going to be the same.
Okay. So, for the record, how many times in baseball history has a team come back from down 11 runs?
Oh, I don't know. I doubt it's ever happened.
Okay, let me ask you. So it's 5-0.
Okay.
And what inning do you? If it's 5-0, what inning do you leave?
We probably stay through the 8th, maybe.
Okay.
Around there. Through the
So
7th.
you are such a loyal fan to your team that you will not root in any way, shape, or form for an opponent to throw a no-hitter against them.
I don't want to be embarrassed.
But you are such a loyal fan to your team that you will statistically determine the odds of their victory and how it parlays into what time you can start drinking beers across the street.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Unless I'm driving, and then I'm not drinking, but I would still go over to stands with the guys and, yeah, probably smoke out front. Excuse me.
Smoke out front?
See, one of the after effects of that. That's why you should not smoke, kids.
Okay, so you are willing to bail on your team when they most need you and they're asking for the fans to wear a rally cap.
Mm-hmm.
You're not there to support them.
Well, it depends on what the score is. I mean, if it's 6-0 in the 8th inning on a school night, then I probably have to leave.
If they're up 6-0, are you staying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we usually would stay the entire way. If victory seemed imminent, then we would stay.
But
all
you're
9
willing
innings.
to turn your back on your team
Yeah.
if they're going to lose?
Yeah, we'll catch it on the radio on the way home.
Okay.
Michael Kay and Susan Waldman. Oh, my God. Rogers in the box. If you've never seen that clip before,
is she still
check
there?
that one up. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
She was, apparently the backstory there was she was a Broadway performer, and George Steinbrenner liked her so much that he's like, hey, I want you to hire her for the radio call. And now she's been, I mean, she's, I'm not making the accent, it's very New York, but she's been on the broadcast team for like 35 years or something now. I mean, she's like an institution with that. And Michael Kay's been on for a long time too.
And he's Yankees
No,
win.
you're thinking of John Sterling. Sorry, Michael Kay's the TV voice. John Sterling and Susan Waldman on the radio. John Sterling is Yankees win. Michael Kay is see ya.
How long
you've
is
ever
John
heard that
Sterling? Oh, wait, which one's the one that says like it's an A-bomb
That's
from
Sterling.
A-Rod?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give him a handy. It's Curtis Granderson. And then people are like, you probably shouldn't say give him a handy. That's
Right.
We should probably change the verbiage on that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You want to keep going? we still have more show to get to. We have the
No, I
shop
know.
Spider Bowl Bleep.
We'll do Biter Bullschultz next. How's that?
You're so mad at me. Like,
The
you
shop-
ask me my opinion on something, and then you just become, like, incredulous when I don't answer it the way that you want to.
Shop on Broadable Avenue,
keep
920
re-asking me.
Broadable Avenue, or in Carmel
Like,
Clay
the answer's
Terrace.
going to change.
They have shirts like this one that is fabulous from O'Malley's Food Market, my first job, or what better thing to get to right now than Boom Baby.
I don't know why you
Homage
are
to
the
Slick.
way you are with that.
All available at the shop, theshopindy.com. Biter Bullschultz is next on Query and Schultz.
It's a great shirt.
It is great.
Yeah.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do, from Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
What?
Back for, I think, a final time here on the show. Maybe ever. It's Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
I don't know.
Why would you tell me that 20 seconds before we're about to go back on? Like, Jordan literally gave the countdown, and you just told me. I don't know if you guys heard that in the other room, because the mics are live even while we're in commercial. But
I
Jake
just simply,
told me.
okay.
I don't even want you to repeat it. Don't even repeat it on the show.
Okay.
But if we were talking about medical health afflictions earlier, and it has something to do with that.
Okay.
And male specific.
No, you're talking about your colonoscopy. Okay, what do we have to get to here? Biter Bullschultz, right? Brought to you by the Shop Indy, theshopindy.com, 920 Broadable Avenue, or in Clay Terrace. Fabulous shirts of high quality. Perfect for the Indy 500 coming up, by the way. And yes, there will be, as of now, always subject to change in fluid. I'm not making an official announcement, but it's my understanding. I think we can anticipate that fans will be there for the Indy 500.
Yeah, I think so. Really, all I care about is practice, because I want to go back. I want to go back and hear the cars. I want to take my son out there, so that's what I'm focused on more than race day.
Yep.
I might actually avoid race day. I'm still trying to see if my credentials are going to come through, and if they don't, then I'm probably not going to go.
Right.
Even though I will be vaccinated at that point, so I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a big wuss about it.
All right, you ready for Biter Bullschultz? Here's what
Yep,
you do.
let's do it.
Derek makes a statement. I say whether I buy it or I consider it to be Bullschultz.
The current model in college football will not exist in 10 years. Buy it or bull bleep, something that we were talking about earlier.
I will buy it only because depending on how much leeway you're giving me here on the statement, I mean, I think that there are going to be some changes in terms of it's going to be more than 4 teams, for example, or even something as slight as that modification, or maybe more conferences would be allowed as potential entries, et cetera, et cetera. So I will say I buy it.
Well, just think about all that's changed in the last 10 years, like, Rutgers and Maryland and all of the conference realignment stuff that happened around, 11, 12, 13, 14 right. in the early portion of the 2010s. And 10 years is a long time. So, yeah, by 2030, do I think we could have some wholesale change in college football? Absolutely. I mean, just this transfer stuff alone, I think is a game-changing thing where I'm really interested to see it. I have no idea what the after effect of it is going to be, but I just know that there will be an after effect. So yeah, I buy it. I still think the NCAA will exist, and I think there'll be some sort of a sanctioning body, probably them. But I think they'll just continue to be changed because the amount of money, Jake, it's just going to keep going up, 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 up. You think it's absurd now? Just wait. It's going to get just more and more absurd. Speaking of the one-time transfer rule, that's actually topic number 2. Buy it or bull bleep. The one-time transfer rule is a bad thing specifically for college basketball.
By one-time transfer rule, elaborate on exactly what you mean.
You can now transfer one time without penalty. So you can go and automatically become eligible wherever you want to go.
Here's the thing. I understand the double standard of it because coaches leave all the time. Students in college leave all the time. Derek, I went to 3 schools in 4 semesters. Nobody thought twice of it, right? But the challenge is this. If you allow or continue to allow kids to transfer without penalty, there has to be some sort of a deterrent there, and I'll tell you the main reason why. If you think it's bad now with kids transferring, and I'm convinced that a percentage of these kids that are transferring from one school to the next aren't necessarily doing it because they're unhappy with their situation. But what do they want? They want the high-tech video to come out, with the music playing and the high graphics of them working in the gym and showing the 5 schools, and then everybody, oh, come here. I saw Indiana just got a commitment from a 4-star player. And there's 200 comments for everybody, Hoosiers, can't wait to see you in the candy stripes, da-da-da-da. You're the guy. And I'm like, okay. I mean, people jumped up and down and said the same thing about insert name of Indiana player. That then a year later, people are like, oh, this guy, come on, really? You know what I mean? It's all cyclical. But I've gotten sidetracked. If you think that there is a transfer issue now, if the NCAA eventually allows for players to get a cut of their likeness or name sales on jerseys at a university, give me a school off the top of your head, Derek.
Texas.
If Derek Schultz is the point guard at Texas, and you are what number would you be?
1, of course. I was already Mr. Basketball.
Okay, and you're number 1. So there's you go to the Texas Longhorns bookstore, and there's a Texas jersey, and on the back it says 1 with the name Schultz, and you get $2 for every one of those they sell. Great, they sold 15,000. You got 30,000 your freshman year. Well, wait a minute. The problem by your sophomore year is everybody that wanted one got one, but they don't have a Georgia one. So now you're going to go to Georgia. Schultz, number 1, Georgia.
Still, you're talking about a very small number of people that would impact. I'm just saying.
The best players, though.
I still think, though, Jake.
I mean, I realize they're going to go pro, but I'm just saying.
A lot of times what I hear is, the people that are against this are saying, well, this will happen and that'll happen. And yeah, all of those things are possible, but we're still talking about, the exception much more than the rule. You know what I mean? With 97% of college athletes.
Look, I'm a compromise guy. I'm like Henry Clay, the great compromiser, right? You simply say this. You say, listen, here's the bottom line. If you are a Division I college basketball full scholarship athlete, you have 6 years to use your you have 6 years of scholarship to use at a maximum of 3 schools. Spend wisely.
I'm actually fine with the one-time transfer. I think it's a good happy medium because if there's a coaching change, there's not a lot that's going to happen in 4 years. 4 years isn't that long of a time. Generally, there aren't 2 coaching changes in 4 years.
There are certain guys, though, Derek, that it's like, oh, my gosh.
Yeah, for sure. I think keeping it at one time is happy. I mean, if it was up to me, I'd do freedom.
Do you remember Jaquan Lyle?
Yeah.
How many schools did he play in?
Yeah. Well, he committed, I think, to a bunch of schools.
He was an Evansville kid.
Yeah. Well, Joey Brunka's now on his 3rd team. Butler, IU, and now Ohio State. So, no, I don't think that it's a bad thing.
I'm looking up Jaquan Lyle because it feels like he went to like 20 schools.
Last one. Buy it or bull bleep. Are you ready for a baseball one?
I can't find Jaquan Lyles on here.
Yankees have the worst record in Major League Baseball right now. They'll miss the playoffs this year. Buy it or bull bleep.
Yeah, I buy that.
It's April, whatever it is, April 20th.
Okay, well. Here's the thing.
They're not missing
just
the playoffs.
Based on how many teams make the playoffs.
Well, they've got the division winners and then the coin flip game.
Yeah, so based on the law of averages, I'm going to say they missed the playoffs just because.
Did they expand it this year? I got to look because I know the NBA changed theirs and they've got a play-in round. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't even looked to see if Major League Baseball has included more teams in their playoff or not. I know they want to go down that road, but no, I think the Yankees will be fine. I think overreacting in the first 3 weeks of April is absolutely ridiculous.
Jaquan Lyle was originally an Indiana commit, was he not?
I don't think so. I don't think he ever committed to Indiana, did he? I might be wrong.
I'm pretty sure that he did.
You're pretty sure or you know that he did?
I'm almost certain.
Okay.
He played in high school in Evansville before going to Huntington Prep in Huntington, West Virginia, and then postgraduate at IMG Academy.
Sorry, I thought he was a Muncie kid for some reason.
He began at Ohio State. After a year at Ohio State, he transferred, to New Mexico. Oregon was in there somewhere as well. I think he started at Oregon. He committed to Indiana, went to Oregon, then Ohio State, then New Mexico. I think that's right. Maybe the nicest kid in the world. I have no idea. I'm just saying. A lot of schools. That
is a lot of schools, for sure.
You know?
Yeah. Good memory, Jacob. It's rare that you remember something that I don't really remember.
It's all right here.
I guess so. Quick thought on the Pacers. They lose. They've got the Spurs tonight as we're taping on Monday. So if you're watching this, they may or may not have won that game. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. We're all going to die someday and the sun will burn out. But they lost to the Hawks on Sunday after another disastrous fourth quarter. My dad actually called me after that game, and he's like, hey, they seem to keep doing this. Like, the Pacers look pretty good, and then they start, and I'm like, well, Dad, it's who they are. If the Pacers were not a mediocre team, they wouldn't keep doing this. It's what mediocre teams do.
Right.
They're good for 75% of the game, and then
they're
stink.
tough. Derek, it's weird with the Pacers because the Pacers seem to have the least fluctuation they seem to have the least drop-off in talent level from their upper crust to their lower crust.
Yeah.
In other words, their bench-dwelling players are pretty good players. I mean, Aaron Holiday can give you some good minutes. Goga can give you some pretty good minutes. They've got talent on that roster. McDermott has played well this year. Justin Holiday is a really good shooter. I think the biggest problem they have is that offensively speaking, Sabonis and Turner, and I like Miles Turner a great deal. Sabonis, offensively speaking, I think in terms of scheme, steps away a little bit too much from what they truly want to do, which is impeding Miles Turner a little bit and slowing down offensively what they want. They went from being a team that had an almost one-sided coach in terms of Nate McMillan based upon their defense to a one-sided coach in Nate Bjorkgren, one-sided being their offense. Mm-hmm. And there's not a happy median in between the two.
And I don't think they made a mistake. I read Jay Michaels' piece in the Indy Star this morning, and I think he kind of hit the nail on the head. In the NBA, Jake, sometimes guys are let go, not because they did a poor job, just because it's time to move on.
No, I would agree.
And
it was time for a change.
No one ever said that McMillan couldn't coach. It's just that his shelf life had expired.
Right.
And I don't think that that's the wrong decision for the Pacers to have moved on. Now, Nate Bjorkgren might not have been the right decision. The jury is still out there as far as the next head coach afterwards, but I don't think moving on from Nate McMillan, looking at that in a vacuum, was a poor decision for the Pacers.
That's fair.
And I'm glad that he's doing well in Atlanta. I like Nate McMillan. I just thought that it was long past due. I wanted to close with this because I didn't want to open with it because, admittedly, it's hard to lead off a show and be like, hey, welcome in. It's Query and Schultz. But this tragic thing just happened. But I think we'd be remiss to not mention what happened on Friday night in between the last couple of shows, which the horrible shooting at the FedEx facility on the Westside and 8 people losing their lives and then a 9th being the gunman. It's such a tragic thing, Jake, for it to happen here and happen and hit close to home. But the thing is that there was a third mass shooting in this city. So the people saying, oh, well, it's finally at your doorstep. Where have you been? It's been on our doorstep for a long time. I mean, violence in this city. Like, yeah, you may be in your vinyl village in Avon or something and not deal with it every day. But, I'm in Midtown by Butler's campus, and I'm telling you, you go 2 miles down the road, it's a whole different story.
You're right.
You know what I mean? And no, I'm not living it every day. I'm not pretending that I am, but I'm also not ignorant of the fact of what's happening in our city. So This is an epidemic that obviously goes beyond Indianapolis, but, I was kind of struck by that people were saying, well, it really hit close to home. And I'm thinking that, this gun violence is part of everyday life for all of us, regardless of where you are.
I think, Derek, when I was watching the coverage that night, it reminded me of the Richmond Hill explosion. I think that's the name of the subdivision.
Yeah, down on the south side.
Where everyone's watching it about the same time of night, and you feel helpless, right? And there are a million debates that can go on from it, and gun control, and whether or not it's, how does somebody that had not only a history of mental illness and depression, but a history of law enforcement investigating those behaviors, how does someone like that end up with not only a weapon, but a weapon designed for mass amounts of shooting? This is a show where we typically talk about sports, although I think we talk a lot about things in Indianapolis. So perhaps people that are more acceptable to have those discussions should be having them as opposed to the two of us. I will simply say I am somebody who has a gun permit. I don't own a gun, but I have a gun permit because it was my right to have one. The right to bear arms to me does not necessarily mean the right to bear all arms. But I think the problem that we have as a society and as a culture is that to the vast majority of people, when 8 strangers in your community, and when they're in your community, they're less strangers than they are if they're in someone else's community, admittedly. I mean, it's our city. And when 8 people lose their life, the natural reaction for people, for most, is to say, and the very first reaction you should have should be, how does someone have it within them to take life? But there are still people who their immediate reaction is, how do people have it within them to turn this into why they should take guns? And if that's your first reaction, I just feel like there's the priority there is off. But that's neither here nor there. The real issue is, what is it that makes we as a people so obsessed with a revenge or violent nature? And I don't know the answer to that, Derek, other than to say this. It's a great city, but it's a city that absolutely has something that has gone wrong with it in terms of our ability to handle our frustrations, our pain, and our suffering. And maybe two guys who typically joke around with each other stopping to reflect on that is a first step. I don't know. Or maybe that gives, in an arrogant way, us too much power. I don't know that either. Other than to say it's a horrible thing that happened, and no one of those lives is any more or any less valuable than the other 8. It was terribly sad. And it was very strange to be in Alabama and look across the way and see the Alabama flag at half-staff and know that it's because of what happened 10 minutes from my house that it was there.
Well, thinking about all those families, it's
absolutely
just a terrible, unthinkable loss for sure.
Absolutely.
So just wanted to make sure that we obviously mentioned that and not, stuck our heads in the sand when it came to it.
What do we have to get to next week?
A lot of stuff next week. Colts draft. So NFL will officially be NFL draft week.
Oh, we're going to do our mock drafts of telling everybody.
That's right.
7th round, I really like this backup left tackle out of TCU. Okay.
And then there's another IndyCar race, right?
Correct, St. Petersburg.
Yeah, so we'll probably mention St. Pete.
Okay.
We've got other stuff, more NBA stuff. Pacers, I'm sure, will continue to not be topical at all. So probably
that's okay.
Mention them at some point.
Right.
Thanks to all of our sponsors today: Chateau Kitchens, American Dairy Association Indiana, The Shop, Love HVAC, and WGU Indiana. And thanks to our crew as well, Jordan Chu, as well as Greg Rakestraw on the other side of the glass, and Greg Mash. Until next time, Jake, we'll see you next week.
Slick.
Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. See you guys.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
Oh my my God!
We are ripping fast today.
And how hard can it be, right?
These are now selling for about $3,500. So we're back to our old ways of pulling rocks.
Act like idiots on camera, open cards, and talk about the hobby.
You're watching Query and Schultz on the ISC Sports Network.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.